How did growing up without a father affect me? I don't know that I would say it was all of my life I grew up without him, because my parents divorced when I was about 3, but my father was still in my life until I was about 10. He moved away and just kind of fell off the grid. You know, I went from seeing him every other weekend to seeing him every other summer. So for me, he moved for me at a time in my life where I really needed him most. It was when I was finding out who I was as a girl and understanding who boys are and liking them or not liking them. And I really didn't have a man to show me what love should look like from someone. So for me, I tried to figure it out on my own. My mother was very secluded. Like she just didn't talk about it. If you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. Sex doesn't exist if we don't talk about it. But that's not reality. So I started having sex at a young age. I didn't even care about reputation. And I was kind of proud about it. I felt like I had to prove myself because I didn't have my father to show me what I was worth. I had to build up my own identity as a result.
Good.
How did growing up without a father affect me? My father passed away when I was 11 years old, and he had a heart attack, but he's always been hospitalized, so we were kind of used to being in the hospital a lot. After he passed away, I was forced to brush it off and to keep living and to deal with it towards myself. So it was hard growing up without him because he was the only man that's been in my life constantly besides my older brother. And at that time, the family was sort of separated. My brother was living with my father and I was living with my mom. So all I had was my mom.
So growing up without a dad, it's been difficult. You learn. It's a process of where you start off. It's just like this is not normal. You see everybody else with their dad, and how do you like explain to a friend or to somebody you know where your dad is at 5? I remember my best friend and always seeing her dad or always being around her dad and wondering why my dad couldn't do the same. Or my biggest question was, why can't my dad love me? So at 5, how do you process that and how do you understand that? So I think I've learned from the people around me.
My view of relationships. Wow. I would say that a marriage is something different for me because I didn't grow up in a household where there was marriage. I didn't even understand what that looks like until, getting older and being exposed to it through different people in my life. So for me, a relationship has always been about creating stability for my family. If a person can't fit into what's already built there in my household, I don't want them around. And especially when it comes to guys, I would say that I have very low tolerance for anyone who I think might be like my father. He was a womanizer, he's still a womanizer. And I've come to expect that of men. Up until recently, I would probably say that I wouldn't trust anyone. I wouldn't give them my full trust. You had to earn it. Not that that's a good thing for any relationship, but for me it was a way to protect myself because ultimately I saw every guy as, oh, you're just going to leave like my father did, so why invest in this when it's not going to amount to much?
It affected my relationships. I'm scared of commitment, and I don't like to make relationships official because I'm scared that I won't be in it forever or I won't be in it for a long time. I don't really think long term because I have a huge fear of losing people. So sometimes I like to sort of be the reason why people leave me rather than them having to leave me on their own terms. I don't trust a lot of people, especially males. I don't like to deal with things right away, and that's probably one of the reasons why, because a traumatizing event like that. When it comes to relationships or when it comes to dealing with any situations, that's the way I deal with it.
Relationships and sex. Well, my views and my opinions, I will always say, are jaded, and like my view is I never want to get married and I never want to have kids. I feel like relationships for me will always be tainted, and until I learn to be okay with this feeling and emotion, it will always be something that I question.
As far as education, I would say that I was still very focused. No, not so much focused. I was still very smart in school. I wasn't focused though. I wasn't driven. I didn't care about the grades. When I did fail classes, my mother would tell my father, and he'd be like, it'll be okay. You're smart. No big deal. But when I was 17 and found out I was pregnant, then it really started to matter that I missed all these classes. And I ended up staying in school an extra year. And in having children so young, it's been a struggle. I still go to college. I'm still working towards a degree. And it's not that I blame my father's absence for the decisions I made, but I know that the fact that he was not there is attributed to me making those decisions. It made it easier for me to try to fill the void with a boy or just a whole bunch of different things.
Academics, when I was in my sophomore year of high school, I went through this real big depression because I was missing my father, and it was a hard time in my life. I didn't like going to school at all. Stayed home from school a lot. Just was really unmotivated. Wanted to be out all the time, to be around people so that I wouldn't have to deal with my own monsters in my closet.
Academics. Seen as, from what I heard, because I don't have a great relationship with my father, he did not do as well. So I push myself. I strive to be the best on all types of levels. I strive to do it the best way I know how. I will push and keep pushing. I'm a workaholic because of it, I feel like. And to see your mom push her behind, like she's a single mom, she was going to work every day, coming home, taking care of me, to go back out, to go to school, and she did it every day, was something that made me want to be better and strive. So I've seen a female work hard and do it by herself, so I have that mindset that I can do it, and I'm going to do it. Who's always been my dad, and you can't tell me nothing. Like, I love him to death, and he will always be that person to explain guys and what they mean and how to react to them. But even with him, I'm only going to let you so far into my life. I'm very much closed-minded when it comes to fathers and men and their view. And though I love the guys in my life, it will always be a question of why. And till I get the answer that I guess I wish or want to hear, it will still be a question of why.
I would say that my view of fathers is not as bad as I thought it would be. Because I have children and I have relationships with their fathers in parenting, I would say that I'm pleasantly surprised that I do have a really good, solid relationship with my children's father. It's not that I feel like he's doing 100% of what he should be doing, but I would say that him being there is the most important thing to me, and probably because my father wasn't there, because he wasn't there for the graduations, he wasn't there for the important concerts, he didn't even know I had talent till I was like an adult. Things like that I find to be the most important. And so for me, a man who's willing to put those things first and being a part of their children's lives is much more important to me than someone who can write a check or, send a child support, check. That's nothing.
I've had father figures in my life, but they weren't consistent. it was only for like seasons. They only stayed for a season and then on to the next father figure, or my mom was the only constant person. I admire when fathers are there for their daughters all the time, giving them advice, supplying them with anything they need. And I really dislike when kids are so unappreciative of their fathers, because for me, I have the mentality like, but you have a father kind of thing. I don't always vocalize that because that's not something you would, I don't like the sympathy, but it's just like, if you have a father and things don't always go well, I feel like you should still appreciate.
On fatherhood, I don't even know what to say there. Like, my father has not been there, so it's really hard to answer questions when it comes to father. It's really hard to explain my views because people don't understand for the most part. And even the people who do understand, their views sometimes are different and they're okay with it. And I feel like it took me a while to be okay with it. Like, it took me 18 years. For 18 years, I questioned. I sat in that window at 7 waiting for him to come, and he wasn't there. So I was angry. I was real angry, and I was real upset. And it's now being an adult that you're still dealing with it, and it's something that you're always going to deal with to the day you die. It's part of your life. It's a part of what makes me who I am. So